Hello and welcome into the Volatile Podcast. The Volatile Podcast is here for the common fan, by the common fan, to remind you that being a Vols fan is a terminal diagnosis that we all share. I'm joined tonight by a smaller crew than normal. I'm joined here by my good friend and co-host, Joe Davis. Joe, how are you doing tonight, man?
Man, I'm doing great. Glad to be back. Sorry I've missed the last few episodes. We had a historic round of sickness, flu, strep, the works. But we're all recovered now, and I'm glad to be back talking Vols basketball and Vols baseball with you, my good friend, Mac Williams.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, that was rough. I mean, I know you guys had it worse than we did, but we also had a little bout of stomach bug. My kids did, and then my wife did. Thankfully, I was able to avoid it, but yeah, it was pretty rough there. I think a lot of people in our kind of community, in our church, in our school, and everything was kind of down for the count. So I'm glad you guys are recovered and are back. Well, we're going to get started talking about latest news. So we want to lead the show, obviously, with kind of the biggest thing that's on everyone's minds right now, and it's who's going to be our quarterback next year. So Joey Aguilar, we still have not heard anything definitive, but as it stands tonight, this is Wednesday, February 18th, a hearing was held this past Friday. That's February 13th. But the judge has not issued a ruling on whether to grant an injunction or not. So as it stands now, Joey is still, with the team, still acting as a participant on the team, but doesn't know for sure if he will be able to be on the team in the 2026 season. And then, Joe, you just reminded me before we press record here that he is going to be attending the NFL Combine here soon. He can only go to that for a couple days, I think.
Yeah,
we said
48 hours is what I understand, and there's something about that still preserves his eligibility to play. So he's kind of hedging his bets. He gets to do a little bit of combine work, or if the judge rules in his favor, then he could play another season. Obviously, hoping that he stays, but if he doesn't get to stay, then I'm glad he at least gets to give a little bit of a showcase at the combine and try to work his draft prospects. I don't know what those will look like, but we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. As far as other latest news go, last week, listener, if you were able to tune into our live show where Nick and I did our first ever live episode, we did talk about the 3-star commitment from Alpharetta, Derek Baker. So we talked about him some. We haven't talked about that on a formal podcast here. But yeah, excited to have another quarterback coming in for next year's class. And so, yeah, looking forward to Derek Baker. He's got some good stuff on film. As far as other latest news go that we haven't covered, we just finished tonight, just moments ago, the Vols dominating Oklahoma 89-66 at home. Nice win there for the Vols. And then our Tennessee BasketVols are 4-0. Baseball team is undefeated so far. So we're going to get into the basketball game and the baseball season thus far as we go on tonight. But, Joe, let's go ahead and start with the basketball game tonight that we just watched. Tennessee versus Oklahoma here at home. Again, that final score was 89-66. So Tennessee ended up routing Oklahoma pretty good by about 23 points. That line was 11.5 prior to tip-off. I think it got all the way to 11.5. Tennessee was favored, obviously. So Tennessee ended up covering that by about 12 points. They covered the spread of 11.5 by 12, winning by 23. So they handled that spread pretty easily. So I think the final score obviously would tell, a story of pure domination, which I definitely think that was part of the story of tonight. But let's start with the good stuff. I think obviously the thing that stood out to me most on the good side was that Nate Ament continues to show that he can be an elite player. Had a good game. I think that was his fifth 20-point game in the last 6 games. I believe that's right. And so he's been playing really well as of late. And the announcers mentioned in the game, and this was a good reminder, I thought, that had Tennessee not blown 2 double-digit leads at halftime, we would be on a 10-game win streak. So we're 8-2 in the last 10, and those 2 losses are both to Kentucky, both when you had a more than 10-point lead in each of those games. So, yeah, pretty tough look there. But, Joe, what else did you notice that was good?
Well, I thought tonight was really good for Gillespie. He was coming into the season. There was a lot of talk and hype about his play and how important his play was going to be, and he's kind of had a roller coaster. I think a bit of a roller coaster kind of season. He's had some real high water marks. He's also had some games where I think he's underperformed or not really lived up to his potential. And tonight he had a really great game,
Mm-hmm.
both offensively and defensively. Set the program standard for most steals in a game, I think at 8 or 9. And just seemed like he was really in control of the offense. He was locating the ball well, finding his spots. Even when he wasn't scoring, he was dishing it well. So I actually, Nate has played so well over the last, 5 or 6, really this 10 game streak. Really, he's really played well. That it's almost you almost come to expect that from him at this point. And so it's just great to see him continue. That's obviously great. But I thought Gillespie was actually the highlight for me, as far as just good to see him play, really solid basketball. He's a great if he and Nate are playing at their highest level, I don't think there's a team in the country that Tennessee can't play with or beat. And then you've got the other thing I would say is I love watching Boswell play.
Mm-hmm.
I think he plays really solid defense. He had some really great mid range shots
Mm-hmm.
tonight that I think that's a piece of the game that, especially if the three ball isn't there for them. And they didn't shoot a lot of threes tonight. They had a couple of big threes, but they weren't draining them the way they were against like Georgia. And so if they can get those mid range, sort of those mid range jump shots to go, and I thought Boz hit a couple of key ones and key moments. Man, it's just I don't. I know it's Oklahoma. They're not very great. You try to keep that in the balance of the conversation when you're talking about how good of a win is this. That's fair. But I don't know. Everything seemed to be going well for them. On the other side of the ball, Oklahoma, I got to give credit to that team. I mean, the final score I don't think tells the whole story. And I think that's kind of where we're going to transition the conversation here in just a bit. But they hung around. That every time it looked like Tennessee was going to bury them, they would hit a three, get a turnover. Tennessee was they were in bonus. They were in bonus time at like minute 15 in the second half, so that's not great, right? Against a lesser talent team like Oklahoma, you shouldn't be giving away that kind of foul, those kind of gifts in the foul line. So there's a couple of things like that. And I thought Oklahoma played pretty admirably, and really hung with them and kind of forced Tennessee to play the full 40.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. So going back to the good stuff for Tennessee, they played the full 40. They didn't go to sleep. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't, they didn't give up the big lead. I was impressed by the game.
Yeah. So you said that Gillespie set the school record tonight for around 8 or 9 steals. Is that what you
I'm,
heard?
I'm almost positive that's true, that he set the program. It was either it certainly is his best,
His
but
personal, okay,
definitely his personal best. But
okay,
I think the announcer said it was like the program single season record of most steals by one player. I
like
thought
in a
I thought
game
that's
or up
right.
to or throughout the season.
I don't know. Maybe it was
Because
up to the season.
I'm like, I feel like Zakai Ziegler had to have more than like he had to have a game with double digit steals at some point, right?
I'll,
Like
yeah, sure. I'll see if I can fact check that while we're talking.
because I'm like,
It definitely was Gillespie's personal best. That's for
sure,
sure.
sure, sure.
Maybe not the school record. I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, and to that point, I mean, Gillespie did play a great defensive game. There were so many, passes that he was able to jump in front of, and it just seemed like he was playing, really quick tonight. He just looked
Yeah,
really fast on the floor. It didn't look like Oklahoma could keep up with him. And to your point, I think Gillespie did a great job down the stretch, especially when we did kind of go through a little bit of a drought, and the 15-ish point lead got down to like a 6 point lead. There wasn't a lot of Gillespie turnovers that we've seen in other games where you're kind of like just banging your head against the wall, like, why in the world are you making this pass? Things like that. I felt like Gillespie really did play a much cleaner game than he has
yeah,
against other SC opponents. The only other player I thought worth mentioning, because you did a good job hitting on Gillespie and Boswell. But the other guy that stood out to me tonight was Okpara. I thought Okpara played a really good game.
sure,
He seemed to
sure.
rebound really well, was really active in the pick and roll game, had some massive dunks,
Yeah, he
so
did.
Okpara played a great game. And man, when he's on, he's definitely the best all around big on the team. But he's just a little bit been inconsistent last few games. I know he missed the Auburn game because he had a little bit of injury. I don't know how much if that's still nagging him at all or what, but um, I think if Akpara is on, especially as you get into postseason play here, in the next few weeks, next month in
Right.
March, that's going to be huge for us if he can play like he did tonight.
Well, and to continue that, so first of all, according to Google here, the Tennessee school record for steals prior to tonight was 7 by Kennedy Chandler
Oh
against
wow,
Presbyterian, which means and I think Gillespie had 8, so he would be now the school record holder for most steals
that's
in
crazy.
in a single game. Yeah,
I really
so
would have thought Zakai had more than 7 in a game. That's crazy.
yeah. So a couple of other really good highlights from a more of a 30,000 foot view. 50% of Tennessee's points tonight were in the paint. So they played well, kind of down in the lanes. Like you said, the pick and roll game was really working for them tonight. I think that's really encouraging. And then I think it was I don't remember what the final stat was, but towards the end of the game, it was 25 to 30 points off of turnovers. To Oklahoma's like 4 at that point in the game. So they were taking advantage of the opportunities that Oklahoma was giving them or that they were creating. Oklahoma had some bad passes that went out of bounds, things like that too. But I mean, like we just said, Gillespie with a lot of steals. You got to turn those into points. Tennessee did that tonight. There's just again, I want to keep all of this kind of in check and in balance considering the opponent, but it's SEC play. It's Oklahoma. They're not, this isn't some cupcake team. And they played the full 40 and, their fundamentals were good. I thought the free throw game was, I don't know, man. If
Well,
Tennessee's, go ahead.
I was going to say at this point, like Tennessee's just apparently not going to be a good free throw shooting team. Apparently. I mean, it just. I didn't think tonight was egregious by any means, but it just you just hate seeing guys go to the line and constantly walk away with only hitting 1 of 2, or your bigs who should be shooting around 50%. That's pretty standard for a big that's not a good free throw shooter, and your bigs are still like going 0 for 2. And that's just like you got to get 1 as a big. You need to at least get 1, and when we're not
Yeah.
getting 1, it's just really frustrating.
Yeah, if we want to transition to some bads, I would say free throw play, right? That I don't know that can improve at this point in the season. Probably not, like you just said. But that's just if Tennessee is in a close one and it's going to be decided by free throws, I don't like our chances. And that's you don't want that to be the case going into the tournament. But
Right.
I think that's just kind of where we're at. I don't know, man. I'd love for you to weigh in on this. I think that Carey is bad. So now I've not watched as much basketball as my other co-hosts on the podcast. I'll own that. But watching him play, it's just I don't know, man. He's doesn't have any kind of dominant, long arm play down there in the paint, and his defense is so. He rebounds okay. Estrella didn't play tonight because of foot soreness.
That's right.
It's okay. So, I thought that, Carey had a lot of minutes tonight because of that. And I was thoroughly unimpressed. Feel free to correct me here, but I think that his play is just not great.
Yeah. So I will come at this from a little bit of a more moderate angle. So I do think that Jalen Carey is a good player. I think that he can be the best big on the team when he plays like it. Now, I did obviously just get done talking about how Akpara is the best big all around. I do think, though, that Jalen Carey is able to bring a certain level of toughness around the rim that Akpara doesn't always bring. And when Carey is on, he's really on. The problem with him is it's similar to Akpara, I would say, but he's just super inconsistent, especially when it comes to finishing around the rim.
Yeah.
The biggest issue, and you kind of mentioned this, the biggest issue with Jalen Carey right now is every time he gets the ball in the post, he's really trying to go hard at the defender and finish kind of downhill, finishing at the rim, which all those things, if in basketball language, are good. Those are all good things. The issue is he doesn't have any versatility in his game. So when guys are defending him in the post, they're able to just chest up to him, body up to him, play really physical, really hard defense because they don't have to worry about overextending and
Right.
getting beat, or him kind of doing a hook shot or something like that. Like he doesn't have any of that kind of finesse post game that we see Okpara have at times. And Estrella is really your best offensive big when it
Yeah.
comes to those kind of shots. And Carey's just kind of one dimensional around the rim. Now, tonight, like if I'm trying to really split hairs here, there was a lot of good defensive possessions where he was rebounding the ball well, created a lot of second chance points with offensive rebounds. But to your point, Carey has really been struggling around the rim the last month and a half. I mean, he's not been super good offensively when it comes to finishing at the rim. And then he's kind of the person I have in mind when we talk about free throws, because when he goes to the free throw line, it feels like he's not even able to get one of two, and you need him to get one of two,
Right.
And so, I think he's just struggling all around right now offensively. But I don't know if you saw him play last year, because he played for Vanderbilt last year.
Okay.
And he dominated Tennessee when we played Vanderbilt last year.
Of course he did.
So he had a good season last year. I mean, he was a good player. And so it's there. He has the ability to do it, but it's just something's got to click. And I wonder, is it because we have so many really good bigs who get minutes? I mean, if you think about it, before Nick's favorite player, Cade Phillips got hurt, then we had four bigs who were getting significant time before, and that's quite a bit, for modern college basketball. And now we're kind of down to three. It's really just Carey, Okpara, and Strella. They're kind of sharing the load there. And then Dwayne Brown, too. So really five. Dwayne Brown's kind of stepped in that role since Cade Phillips has gotten hurt.
I thought he came in at the end of the game. I thought he played really well.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to bring up, and this may be better talked about, on a future episode, we have all the guys here, but there's a part of me that thinks that Dwayne Brown in a vacuum, if you just put him on offense and you just put him in certain offensive set, I think he's your best offensive threat in the post.
Yeah.
Now, he can't get up and fly and slam it like Okpara. He doesn't quite have the touch of Estrella, but you have to remember, he's a true freshman. I mean, this kid is just out of high school. I really do think that give it a year or two, and he's going to be your most polished big that we might have seen since, someone like Grant Williams under Rick Barnes. I really think Dwayne Brown has a high ceiling, and he's showing a lot of promise in the post.
I'm really sympathetic to that take based on what I saw tonight. I mean, I when he came in the game, I was thoroughly impressed, and honestly was, I'm being pretty hard on Carey. Maybe that's a little unfair, but I'm watching, Brown play, and I'm thinking, give this guy more minutes. Like, let him play, because he's just eating at the rim. I mean, let him score.
Where Dwayne Brown hurts you is when he catches the ball in the high post and he's not just posted up ready to make an offensive move in the post. Whenever he catches the ball in the high post and he has to do something to run the offense, whether that's, pass the ball instead of screen, dribble to a spot and pass, something like that. Whenever he has to move the ball, that's where you start to see his being a freshman really come out, because he just does not look confident with the basketball. And that's an area where I think Jalen Carey is one of your better bigs, because when he gets the ball in his hands, Carey is a pretty good passer, and he can dribble the ball better than, your average college basketball big man. And so, I think Jalen Carey is better for the offense as a whole, though his specific offensive game is struggling, whereas Dwayne Brown's kind of the opposite. His offensive game within itself is better, but him running the offense it's just not as smooth.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds right. But I think it gives Tennessee fans a lot to look forward to in the future if they can keep him and develop him.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot to look forward to there.
And I don't see why there's any reason to doubt that they will. I mean, the only reason why you might say that they won't is if Rick Barnes retires. But if Rick Barnes stays at least for another couple of years and sees him through his career, I think Rick Barnes has a proven record of getting the best out of his bigs. Like, the more they're with him, the better they get. And so I think that'll be the trend there with Dwayne Brown too.
For sure.
The last thing I had kind of about bad stuff in this game was that, even though you did end up winning by 23 and you kind of stomped them late in the game, you did still find a way to kind of make the game tighter than it needed to be in the second half. And this is a trend that we're seeing. We saw it twice with Kentucky. You lost the game. You saw it with Auburn. You held on to win. And now we're seeing it again with Oklahoma. And it's just kind of frustrating that if you want to be the elite of the elite in college basketball, when you've got a 15-point lead on a bad team, you just can't let them hang around.
Yeah.
And again, credit to the team tonight. They stuck through it. They battled. Like you said, Gillespie had great minutes down the stretch, didn't turn the ball over, which is an improvement on the things we've talked about up to this point. But, it's just still frustrating to see that they're still letting these kind of bad teams kind of hang around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? This is classic Tennessee athletics. What stops Tennessee athletics from kind of pushing beyond that sort of mid-tier good into the elite top four teams, whether that be in football, basketball. I mean, obviously baseball is the one exception, but what stops them from doing that? And it's the ability to consistently play at your level and just bury your opponents, right? And Tennessee has always struggled to do that. And I don't know how you change the culture of the athletic, the entire athletic program in order to break that ceiling, but they've got to figure it out, because they've consistently had teams with good talent and good coaching, and they need to be able to just see themselves as elite and play at an elite level. And Oklahoma's not good. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just not that good. And
Right.
so you had an 18-point lead on them at one point that got cut down to 6. You just can't you can't do that. Now again, going back to the goods, they play the full 40. They end up beating them by a respectable amount, the kind of amount that they should have beat them by. The game ended the way it should have ended. It just shouldn't have been as interesting as it was around the 13-minute mark.
Right. Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah. So, listener, that's pretty much it for the Oklahoma game. Overall, good win. You took care of business. You covered the spread. More goods than bads, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely, a good feeling to get a win. I mean, it's like you said, it's SEC play. Every win matters. You're glad to get one. So coming up, kind of down the stretch, what we have is Tennessee plays at Vanderbilt on Saturday. And then we also go on the road next Tuesday to Missouri. So that Vanderbilt game is going to be is a big one because Vanderbilt's much better this year than they have been as of last couple of years. And Vanderbilt as a program has definitely been trending up, but they seem to really have kind of found their footing this year. Although this Vanderbilt team did just lose to Oklahoma last week. So this Oklahoma team you just beat by 23, Vanderbilt just lost to that team. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily think that means Tennessee's for sure going to win. I think that's going to be a tough game. You've got to go in and play good basketball. But I do think it shows that, you can beat anybody on any night. And if we show up and play our best, we should take care of business against Vanderbilt. So, yeah, Vanderbilt's ranked number 20 right now. Their only losses are to Texas, Florida, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. They have no out-of-conference losses. They're perfect except for the 4 SEC games they've lost. 3 of those 4 losses, so that's Texas, Florida, and Arkansas, those 3 came within a 7-day period. So from January 14th to January 20th, Vanderbilt dropped those 3 games. The only game they've dropped outside of that 1-week window was the Oklahoma game last week. So, Vanderbilt's a good team. But it is interesting, right, that 2 of the 4 teams they've lost to, Tennessee has beaten. Now, also 2 of the 4 teams they lost to also beat Tennessee. So
Right.
I think that what that means to me is that if you show up and play your best, you're going to win. If you don't, then Vanderbilt's going to beat you, especially at home. Vanderbilt's going to be ready to play. Memorial Gym can be a tough place to play, as we've seen the last couple of years. Tennessee has dropped a game there. I believe that was, I think we lost there last year for sure. And then I think we lost there the year before as well. So can be a tough place to play. I think this is going to be a good test for Tennessee. I think that you're going to get to see, if we win that game, I'm going to feel really good about the fact that we went on the road and got a win.
And Vanderbilt's got a lot to play for. Obviously, it's a rivalry game, in-state rivalry game. We're basically tied in SEC standing right now. So there's a lot on the line. Tennessee's going to have to show up, and they're going to have to play their best, I think. And I agree with you. When I look across the board at these 2 teams, I see 2 very equally matched teams. Should be a good game. And if it's a win, I'm gonna say that's a good win.
Yep. Yep.
That's gonna do a lot going into the postseason. If you can go on the road, and especially if they can dominate Vanderbilt, I think that puts you in a good place to finish out the regular season and go into the tournament. So
Yeah.
really looking forward to Saturday and hoping for a Vols win.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, as I sit here and just kind of listen to you talk, I do think that looking back on this season, this will be the best road win we have. Now we did beat Houston, which is a better win than this one, but I think that Houston, is a neutral site game. So this is your bet. This is going to be your best true road win that you have on the schedule. Now, Alabama was a good road win too. So I don't know, that those two were tough. I think it depends on how those two teams played on the stretch, but this is going to be up there though, is the point. And so yeah, I think it's going to be a big win. As far
Hey,
as sorry,
real quick, do you know if Arkansas beat Alabama tonight or the other way around?
I don't know. Do you want to check on
Okay.
that for me?
While you go on, I'm going to check and see who won.
Now, I do know Missouri. This is interesting. While you look that up, Missouri and Vanderbilt are playing right now. They just tipped off about an hour ago now. So I'll as soon as we get off here, I'll be interested to see the score of that game, just because those are your next two opponents coming up. So I'm interested in the Vanderbilt Missouri outcome. So yeah, next Tuesday, Tennessee goes on the road to Missouri after we go on the road to Vanderbilt this Saturday. Missouri is 17-8 overall, middle of the road SEC team. This is a game that Tennessee should win. Obviously, you're going to be coming off of what we hope is a win at Vanderbilt. So you got to show up, play your best. Any road game in the SEC can be tough any given night. So I do think Tennessee wins that game. But if you don't show up and play well, then you're not going to. It's as simple as that. So I really think I really believe that Tennessee can win Saturday. And I believe we'll take care of business on Missouri. So I see us going 2-0 in the next 7 days before we record again. What do you think record wise? Do you think Tennessee wins both these games?
Vanderbilt's tough, man. I think I guess I would say it this way: Tennessee should be 2-0 next time we record. If they drop the Vanderbilt game, I don't think that's detrimental. I think that those are two really good teams. It's a tough road environment. I could see Vanderbilt pulling out the win there. I think if you lose to Missouri, I think you got problems. I think that's heading into the postseason, you got to be playing your best basketball, and your best basketball should beat Missouri even on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're 2-0. I could see us being 1-1 if we lose to Vandy, and if we're 1-1, even if we're 1-1, even if you beat Vandy on the road but lose to Missouri. I don't know, man. That's not the look you want going into the postseason. Real quick, Alabama did hold on to beat Arkansas in overtime, 117-115. So,
okay, that's a good game there.
Yeah.
Overtime, 2-point win, 117-115.
And Arkansas is playing good basketball. So
yeah, they're a good team. They're a good team for sure. Yeah, well, listener, that pretty much does it for basketball talk. We're going to go ahead and transition here into baseball, which is, I know for Joe and I, we love baseball quite a bit more than basketball. If Jeff was here, he would have something to say about that, as he does prefer basketball. But we're big baseball guys here, so I'm going to go ahead and run through kind of the whole weekend and midweek. Listener, so if you'll just bear with me here, I'm going to give you some, scores and stats real quick, and then after we get done here, Joe and I are going to break this down. So this past weekend, Tennessee hosted Nicholls State for their opening series, and Tennessee completed the sweep against Nicholls State. We also beat UNC Asheville in the midweek game just last night, Tuesday night. So the Friday night game, we'll start there with Nicholls. Tennessee wins that game 10-0 in 8 innings. We run ruled Nicholls. Tegan Coons was your starting pitcher on Friday night. He gets the win with 6.2 innings pitched. He gave up 0 runs on 2 hits with a walk and 8 Ks. So pretty good night there for Tegan. Reese Chapman led the way at the plate for the Vols, going 2 for 2 with 2 doubles and 2 RBIs. In that opening game, that Friday night game, Henry Ford, Tyler Myatt, and Stone Lawless also each had a homer. So that was a nice showing, good run rule, what you expect from a Friday night game against a team like Nicholls State. Saturday, we had a doubleheader, so we played 2 games. So in the first game, Tennessee won 5-1, so a much tighter game in that one, not as much offense. Landon Mack got the win on the bump, pitching 6 innings. He gave up 1 run on 4 hits with 1 walk and 9 strikeouts. Landon Mack, excuse me, Landon Mack ended up with the most Ks for the weekend. And then Blaine Brown was electric on Saturday. He led the way at the plate, going 3 for 5. He had 2 homers and a single with 4 RBIs in that game. Jay Abernathy, he secured the lone other RBI in that game via hit by pitch. So Blaine Brown accounted for 4 of your 5 runs, and Jay Abernathy got your other RBI at the plate with bases loaded there. So that was your first game on Saturday. The last game of the series, Game 3, the second game on Saturday, also ended in a run rule, 12-2. This was in 7 innings. Evan Blanco got the start and the win with 5 innings pitched. He gave up 0 runs on 5 hits and 2 walks with 9 Ks. So actually, sorry, I said Landon Mack got the most Ks. Him and Evan actually tied in strikeouts there. Blaine Brown, again, was really good in Game 2. Saturday was a great day for Blaine. He went 3 for 4 in the Game 2 on that Saturday with a homer, a double, and a single. So he was just a triple away from the cycle. And he also got an RBI. Levi Clark and Finley Bates homered in that Game 2 on Saturday, and Tyler Maya accounted for the team lead of RBIs, which was 4. So that was kind of our weekend series. We'll go ahead and talk about the UNC Asheville game, and then we'll kind of talk about all this together. So in the midweek last night, Tuesday night against UNC Asheville, Tennessee won 10-3. Blaine Brown, again, that name's coming up a lot. He got the start in that game. He threw 1 inning with 3 strikeouts. And then Cam Appenzeller gets credited with the win. He pitched 4 innings. He gave up 2 runs on 2 hits with a walk and 4 strikeouts. Jay Abernathy had a great game in the midweek. He led the way at the plate, going 3 for 4. He had a triple, a double, and a single. So obviously, if you know anything about Jay, him getting a home run is definitely the hardest part of the cycle for him.
Sure.
He was real close. He tallied 2 RBIs and scored 2 runs. So of your 10, he accounted for 4 of them. And then Henry Ford and Stone Lawless also homered in this midweek game against UNC Asheville, and Stone accounted for the team lead 3 RBIs in that game. So that's kind of all the 4 games that Tennessee's played. Again, Tennessee is 4-0 heading into this next weekend series in a couple days. How do we feel being a 4-0 ball club, Joe?
Well, okay. There's a lot to be excited about in Tennessee baseball, I think. So you return 3. I'm thinking basketball. You've got a new manager in
Josh Elander.
Yeah, Elander, who I actually didn't even realize this until I started watching the games, but I just assumed he'd be in the dugout, but he's still out there on the third baseline.
Yes.
I dig that, man. I just love this guy so much. But he's got him fired up. He's got him still playing Tennessee baseball. They've got all the moxie, all the swagger. And they're playing at an elite level, at a high level. Now, of course, you want to take the competition into consideration as always. I thought Nichols was a good opening series for them. You and I talked about this in our Vols chat because I didn't know a whole lot about him. I thought it's just some cupcake school. Who are these people? But you had said that they're a good mid-tier opening programs. It's the kind of team you should beat on paper, but you learn some stuff about yourself early, and they came out and they dominated. Obviously, some run rule games. The bats were hot. The pitching was electric. So I think there's a lot to be excited about. But what I was most excited about watching the midweek game was the elite level of relief pitching that you're getting out of your freshmen. So I think this is huge. Okay, we all know the importance that pitching plays in postseason play. Right, you got to have good closers. You got to have guys who've got ice in their veins. And these freshmen came out. You had a couple of pitchers in the 7th, 8th, and 9th come out, and they were locating their pitches well. But what I was impressed by was when they would give up a hit. So they gave up a single and a double in that UNC game. And the tendency, especially for a young pitcher, is to kind of step off the plate and not be aggressive with your location. And these freshmen absolutely did not do that. They would, if they gave up the single or they gave up the double, next batter up, They are attacking the strike zone. They're locating their pitches. They're throwing aggressively, and they're getting Ks. And to me, that's something to really get excited about when you're watching baseball. The tendency to pitch scared is that's how you pitch yourself right out of wins. And baseball, I mean, you and I know this, big baseball fans, that baseball's the best sport. Okay. It's a perfect sport. And what I love about it is that you can't run it out. You can't run out a lead. You have to play every inning, and you got to go out there, and you got one out left, then your team's still got a chance to win the game, right? As long as you can keep hitting the ball, you can win. And so you got to have guys, you got to have relief pitchers who are going to go in there. And I don't care if you got a 1-run lead or a 15-run lead. You got to go out there and you got to throw strikes. And these freshmen, they're not scared. They got all the moxie. They got all the swagger. They're attacking the strike zone, and they're getting Ks. That's what you need going into, going down the stretch, going into the postseason. If you're going to get back to Omaha, this is how you're going to do it. And so that to me was the big takeaway. Now, the other thing I got to say, the other big takeaway is the unsung hero of Tennessee's as far as Tennessee play is the lights. The Tennessee Lights, those poor UNC boys out there, and I keep saying UNC. That's not right, is it?
Yeah, UNC Asheville, yeah,
UNC Asheville. Those poor boys out there in right field, man. They couldn't see the ball. They had several drops. We'll take it, okay. We'll take. Even the Lights are VFLs, and they're doing their job to get us wins. But overall, to me, it was the freshman pitching that stood out to me, because we know Tennessee's going to swing the bat well. We know they're going to put the ball in play. We know that they're going to score a lot of runs. The question is, can you shut down opposing offenses? And they went after the plate. I know that we're talking about UNC Asheville. I know we're talking about Nichols. So you got to keep all that with a grain of salt. But I think the pitching was what stood out to me. I don't know. What about you, man? What stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, obviously, not to come away from the weekend and the midweek and not say Blaine Brown, right? I think it's clear that he has the potential to be, one of the better players that Tennessee's had on their team in a while, which is crazy because, we just came from, having guys on the team like Christian Moore, like Blake Burke, Drew Gilbert, Jordan Beck, these guys who are, major league players who obviously, won a national championship 2 years ago. But I really think Blaine Brown's ceiling. I mean, he is the type of guy that could be a number 1 overall pick in a couple years. And what's crazy about him is that he is going to be at Tennessee for at least 2 years, so we get to see him this year and next year before he's gone. So it's going to be really awesome to watch him continue to grow and play. I mean, obviously he's going to have some bad games. I don't know how much run he's going to get on the mound. But obviously he looked good. But again, against UNC Asheville in a midweek game, hard to say, what that really means for him on the mound. But what he's doing at the plate right now cannot be understated. He's killing it at the plate. I want to see that continue. And this seems like a guy who could end up, flirting with 30 home runs. And that's just, that's crazy. It's hard not to say Blaine Brown. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Too early for the Ohtani comparisons that are floating around Twitter.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Ohtani comparisons. Please stop. Shohei Ohtani is a once-in-a-generational player. We haven't seen a player as good as Shohei Ohtani in literally 100 years, and his name was Babe Ruth. So, let's pump the brakes here on the Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani is probably the GOAT already, but if he's not already, he's going to be the GOAT. And so, let's just pump the brakes here on the Rice transfer that's had a good weekend.
I love Vol Twitter. Vol Twitter's undefeated, and they're just like, we found our Ohtani, we've got our guy, and I'm like, guys, it's one weekend. He pitched 3 Ks, but one inning.
He faced 3 batters against UNC Asheville. So let's hold on there for a second. Yeah, that did make me, as a big baseball fan, that made me roll my eyes a little bit. But I get it. I mean, it's a guy that's pitching and hitting. So I get why the comparison's there. It just shouldn't be there. So please stop. So other than the obvious Blaine Brown, if I had to pick someone else that stood out to me, Um, I thought I want to touch on the pitching because you kind of already did a good job overviewing that, but I think one pitcher that really stood out to me that probably is a little bit under the radar. I just really thought, especially given the fact the offense wasn't as good in the first game on Saturday, Landon Mack's outing was really impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
He just seemed to command the zone well, and 9 Ks. I mean that's just a great outing for anybody. But it just feels like from Tegan Kuntz to Landon Mack, the drop off there is not much. I mean, Tegan
Yep.
Kuntz is likely a first round pick, and he has an elite fastball. But Landon Mack, I thought had a really good outing, and if he can just continue to be close to as good as Tegan Kuntz is going to be, Tennessee is going to be really hard to beat. There's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of Friday night wins and Saturday wins in SEC play, and then you're going to have the series no matter what happens on Sunday. And so
Right.
I feel really confident about this team. I really like what the rotation looks like. I just felt really good about Landon Mack's outing, and at the plate, I guess the only other person I would take time to mention is that Reese Chapman has not played as big of a role on the last couple years teams.
Yeah.
He's gotten some at bats. He played a game. I think he started one game in Omaha when we were there 2 years ago, but I thought Reese Chapman just seemed like the solid veteran bat in your lineup that was going to do what it takes to get the job done in every at bat. I thought he had really good at bats this weekend, and I was impressed with Reese. So I liked what I saw from him as well.
Do you remember where he is in the lineup? I'm sorry, I don't.
He's hitting 4 right now.
4. He's in the 4 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I mean, that's huge, man. You got to have really good cleanup there in the 4, 5, and 6. But especially that 4 spot's huge. And so if he can consistently put the ball in play, you got to like Tennessee's chances to get runs on the board and get them up there early. I think those are. I mean, Blaine Brown is the obvious pick, right?
Right.
From
the right pick.
Yeah. So I think those are all solid. So can we talk about some negatives here?
Yeah, please do.
So why can't Tennessee run the bases? What is the problem? And who do we call? How do we fix this? Because it seems consistently for the last few years now, Tennessee obviously defending champs. They play baseball really well. They have for the last few years. So I don't want to dog on them too much. But it just seems like we are giving away so many outs, so many runs, so many potential runs by just not running the bases well. And one, do you see that? Do you agree? And then 2, what do you do about that?
Yeah, so, and I do want to just be clear for the listener if you don't know. So LSU is the defending champs. Tennessee won 2 years ago. I know you know that, but you just misspoke. No, I think – so I would say base running as a whole, whether that be offensive or defensive, has been the problem. If you had to pick one thing where it's like Tennessee is the weakest here, that's been the thing on our national championship team, on the teams leading up to that team, on the team since that team, like base running, whether that be holding base runners, throwing guys out, having a slide step on the mound so guys can't get a huge jump. That has been base running on both sides of the ball has been a huge issue for Tennessee. And again, you're splitting hairs because Tennessee's elite in every other category. So It's, base running, thankfully, because you're so good at the plate, because you're so good defensively, because you're so good on the mound, hasn't cost you a ton of games. But you got to think that, especially in a year where there is a lot of transition, Elander's a new coach, you've got a new pitching coach, you've got a lot of new faces in the lineup. It could rear its head and it be a problem in a game that really matters at some point this year. And I do think that it's a problem. How do you fix it? In this weekend specifically, because I think we got picked off like 2 or 3 times on Saturday against Nicholls State. I wonder, and this is total speculation, I wonder if guys were just not really locked in on the base paths because, you had a lead, that you're going to win. Guys are shoving on the mound. Guys are raking at the plate. There's just not a lot of intensity or focus on the base paths, which is a bad excuse. I mean, it doesn't matter what the score is. base running is, I mean, when I play baseball, base running is one of the most fun things you get to do. Because it really all is. It's not even as much about speed. Obviously, speed helps, but it's really more just about being smart, reading the ball well and getting a good jump. I mean, and you can be a great base runner by doing all those things, whether you're fast or not. And so to
Right.
me, when you're on the base paths, you have the chance to, if you're really locked in and really focused, you have the chance to positively impact the game in a way that wouldn't otherwise necessarily be impacted. And if you're doing it the right way, it's kind of hard to have a negative impact on the game on the base paths. If you're not
Sure.
making mental mistakes, if you're not being dumb, you really have a higher percentage. It's higher reward than it is risk, right? And so I just, it's just a small thing that I think that Tennessee needs to not even become like, I don't need Tennessee to be, stealing bases every game and
Yeah.
really putting pressure on the defense by being aggressive. I don't even think that's what you have to do, but you have to cut out the dumb mistakes and not let it hurt you.
Yeah.
How do you do that? I really do think it's as simple as going back to the basics, locking in, making sure that you're watching the pitcher, making sure you're getting a good secondary, making sure you're just doing the little things right. And that's why I love baseball so much, is because you know in basketball and football, athleticism makes up for a whole lot, in
Yeah.
those sports. Like if you're the fastest or the strongest or the tallest or whatever, you can overcome a lot of dumb mistakes or whatever just because you're the better athlete. In baseball, it's not really like that.
No.
You have to do all the little things right if you want to be the best. And it doesn't really matter how athletic you are, because if you can't do the little things right, you're not going to win. And
Yeah.
so I would like to see Tennessee just kind of focus on that part of their game and just not make dumb mistakes. Again, I don't
Yeah.
I don't need you to be stealing bases like crazy. Really, when I look at our lineup, I'm like, Jay Abernathy should be the only person that's really stealing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really it. Like, I don't really need to see anybody else trying to swipe bags. Obviously, on a pass ball and a wild pitch, you got to be locked in. You got to be ready to take those bags. But you know, I don't need any straight steals from a lot of these guys. And of course, as we get into SEC play, as we get into tighter games, that part of the game will become more important. But right now, I just want to see us cut out the dumb mistakes. So
Yeah, I'm with you there. So I think that's with a lot of positives. And again, so I don't want to dog on them, because I think there's a lot to be excited about for this season's uh, baseball team. So I don't want to make it sound like a pile driving or nitpicking. But the base running stuff is just bonehead. And if you're gonna make a deep run and try to get back to Omaha, you can't be giving away outs and potential runs getting thrown out at second. Speaking about the little things, was Levi Clark playing first? Is that
he played first in 2 games and he caught 1 game.
okay? So I don't remember who was playing first. Who was playing first for the midweek game?
Man, I think Levi played first in the midweek game. I think Stone caught the midweek game.
Okay, I think that's true too. And he had, if it was Levi, and if it's not Levi, sorry to whoever actually was on first for this comment, but I'm going to give it to Levi. He had a couple of really good snags at first base, stretching, and I'm not saying he's a Golden Glove or anything, but those are you talk about the little things, right? The things that can make the difference in a close game. Getting those outs and having the discipline to know where your feet are, know where the ball is, get the stretch, get the out. Tennessee had a couple of those, and so defensively, just overall defensively, I thought they played really solid.
Yeah.
They didn't have any impressive throwouts that I remember, although I think I missed the second game, so there may have been one in that game. So there wasn't anything flashy or splashy, but just overall defensively, they were tight. They they found the ball. They made the plays they needed to make. They had one pretty impressive throwout at first, and that it's those little things that I think. Again, I think Tennessee fans have a lot to be excited about with this team. That
Yeah.
even this early, going into the first weekend. Seems like they've gelled. Seems like they kind of know where they're supposed to be. You're not getting a lot of that early, um, sort of. This happens on whether you're no matter what sport you're playing, but usually early in the season you got to work the kinks out. You got to kind of figure out some stuff, and I just thought they played solid. I thought they played solid baseball all weekend. Not a whole lot to complain about other than the base running, and if they can clean that out, they're going to be a tough out. Doesn't matter who they're playing. So I think there's a lot to be excited about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Joe, is there anything that you would say you've learned about this team after 4 games, or is it too early?
No, I mean, it's probably too early. And again, I'm trying to temper my excitement based on the competition,
Right.
right? But again, I just want to go back to those freshman closers. They all pitched really well. Several of them top 100 prospects. Those are the kinds of players that when you go out and get those guys, they need to live up to their potential.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to basketball for just a second, it's sort of the Gillespie thing, right? Like going into the season, all the talk was that Gillespie had to play to his potential, and so far we've seen it, but not consistently, not all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Hopefully hopefully he plays consistently down the stretch. And for me, what I saw this weekend was they got a lot of talent in that relief in that bullpen,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys were locating pitches. They were getting after it. They weren't pitching scared. They give up some hits. They did, but they got right back after it. They didn't give up any runs, and they got the Ks when they needed them. And so if I learned anything, what I, it with a grain of salt, considering the
Mm-hmm.
competition,
Mm-hmm.
what I learned is that those freshmen, they're for real,
Yep.
and
Yep.
if they can continue to deliver at that level consistently throughout the season, I really like our chances.
Yeah, and specifically, I think it's worth mentioning too, as you bring that up again, because I did mean to mention this earlier, but I didn't, and that's specifically that guy that I think stood out the most in the scenario that you're talking about in relief situations in the midweek, especially being a young guy, was Bo Rudy. So Bo Rudy is the guy who kind of seems to maybe have stood out as our potential closer option. Because I don't know that Tennessee has that guy for sure in
Yeah,
mind right now. I don't know if Elander's already settled on someone, but it looked like Bo Rudy could be that kind of guy for you. And so I'm just really intrigued by him, and I'm excited to see him continue to pitch and hopefully in some more leverage situations as well.
yeah.
Just so that way, we can actually see what he's got. Because, Bo Rudy's got an elite fastball, and he was a highly touted prospect, like you're kind of talking about, and it feels like he could settle in really nicely to a closer role for this season.
Yeah, and again, it's exciting because it feels like Tennessee's got options in that arena,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to count my chickens, but if it's not Bo, then it'll certainly be one of those guys because I think they can all throw, they can all locate.
Mm-hmm.
They're not gonna pitch scared when they're in difficult situations with runners in scoring position, and that's what you need. That's what you need, and frankly, you're gonna need more than one elite guy. So
Mm-hmm.
they do need to settle that question. You got to have a closer. You got to have your go-to guy. And I don't know that Elanders, like you said, I don't know that Elanders got that figured out necessarily right now, but it feels like they've got some really good options, and that
Yep.
they're all throwing in an elite level. So that's really exciting.
Yep. So upcoming matchups for Tennessee, the Vols host Kent State this weekend for our second home series, and then the midweek next Tuesday we will host Bellarmine. That'll be our second midweek matchup of the season. So we've got this upcoming series against Kent State, and then we got the midweek against Bellarmine. Obviously, I expect Tennessee to go 4-0. I expect them to sweep the series. I expect them to beat Bellarmine. Of course, anything can happen in midweek games. Midweek games are weird, but and we'll have another podcast to kind of preview this. But the biggest kind of thing coming down the pike here for the Tennessee baseball team is that next weekend, so not this weekend, not 2 days from now, but next weekend, we travel to Texas to play UCLA, Arizona State, and I'm blanking on who the third team is. But so we got some big time matchups coming up. UCLA is a top 5 team right now. They're a team from Omaha last year. Everyone's pretty much got them penciled in to go to Omaha again this year. That's going to be your first real test of how good are we actually. And so already I'm really excited for that. Obviously, don't want to look past this weekend. Excited to see the guys take the field again against Kent State. But you should go. You should be 8-0 by the time you go play UCLA, and I'll be excited to see what we look like against them.
Yeah. I agree with the assessment. I think 8-0 is reasonable. I think Elander's going to have them, focused, dialed in, ready to play. Nothing for granted, and playing with that Tennessee swagger, man. I don't know. They're just fun. They're just fun to watch. It's just Tennessee baseball is. If you're not watching Tennessee baseball and you're not enjoying it, you're really missing out.
Yeah,
because they play with a lot of moxie. They play with a lot of swagger, and
that's right.
dig it.
And some of our listeners I know are passionate about baseball because they're related to me. But I also know that some of our listeners probably aren't watching every Tennessee baseball game, which is okay. But listener, you have to turn on the baseballs. I mean, Tennessee baseball is the most fun team to watch right now at the University of Tennessee. Like, I understand it's baseball and football will always be king. And even I personally have more individual fun watching a game of football generally, even though I think baseball is the best sport. But the Tennessee baseball team has the things that you wish our football team had, as far as personality, as far as, like you said, Joe, moxie. The Tennessee baseball team is worth you turning on your TV on a Tuesday afternoon to watch them play. So definitely, listener, if you're not watching Tennessee baseball, start watching it. They're great. They're fun to watch, and frankly, I have more fun watching college baseball than I do MLB anymore. And obviously that it helps because the Vols are really good and our Yankees are not as good as they should be.
No, they're not.
I mean, it's Tennessee baseball is the easiest program at our school to cheer for right now. And so, definitely tune into that. Well, Joe, I think that pretty much wraps us up, man, unless you have anything else to add. Listener, we do have some exciting news to share. So next week, I believe, the last I heard, it was next week. This could get postponed, I guess, depending on scheduling. But next week, we'll be welcoming our first ever guest to the Volatile Podcast. And this will be special guest Reed Bacon. Many of you probably know that name, being a part of Vol Nation. Reed Bacon is the co-host of Pancakes and Bacon with Kyler Curbison. And so we're really excited to be able to have Reed on the show and get to ask him some questions. We're going to ask about, football stuff. We're going to ask about Reed and his life, because Reed was a good football player at Knoxville Catholic in his high school days and went on to play at Memphis. And so we're excited to be able to talk to him and kind of get to know him a little bit on the podcast. Excited to bring his voice to our listeners. So that'll be next week, February 25th. When we record that, it'll come out the next day, Thursday, February 26th. So yeah, we're going to get to talk to Reed and we're really looking forward to that. So yeah, please tune in to that episode. We're excited to get to talk to Reed. We're going to go ahead and get out of here, I guess. So the podcasts, you can find them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Check us out there, if not, on your podcast feed. And you can find us on X at volatile_1998. Joe, it's been a good podcast.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Listener, thank you for being here. We're glad to have you. We're glad to be doing this for you guys. And just remember, it's terminal.